Thank you. Dear friends, dear guests, I am going to speak about one special building in Budapest. That's the so-called Déli Station, South Station, a small railway station, but even small, but it is among the three most important stations of the capital. It is a case study for the story what happens with the buildings, but of course we have seen a lot of stories in the last 24 hours. So I'm just trying to find an answer. What will be the future? What will be the future of this special building? And is there any common, or can we get a kind of approach how to protect, how to survive this kind of buildings? The building itself has different periods, and it is in continuous development even today, because just this year, on the 1st of January or 2nd of January, there were, in the newsreel we have learned that it will be closed and it will be simply demolished, and the railway service will not enter to the town like this. Just to understand the position, the railway yard is over there. It is quite in the heart of the Buda part of Budapest. There is the medieval castle hill, and there is the medieval city core of Pest, so it is quite close to the city center, and it divides the best and the most prestigious residential areas of Buda. Of course, the story was not that the railway was projected into the heart of the city, but on the contrary, the railway was first here in 1861, and the city has overgrown during the times. Originally, that was a very modest station and a very simple one. Even I think that in 1861 it was very simple. Because here you can see that it was a simple hole, a wooden hole for the trains. That was the departure part, that was the arrival part. There was no connection between the two parts, so the passengers could not step only one train leaving the city and arriving back. They could leave only on that place. There was no cross platform. As you can see, it has projected to the neighbouring city like that, just as a railway backyard. So after the demolitions, after the damages of the Second World War, there was a new task to make a contemporary and modern railway station from this. On the picture on the left you can see one part of the original building, but there is a new one, and there is the so-called cross platform, which provides as a connection between the platforms and the tracks. And the new building was a very simple ticket hall, nothing else than a ticket hall, because some functions were already provided in the existing buildings. As a matter of fact, this is a temporary building, and they knew that this is temporary, so they have called it provisorium. But finally, people liked very much, and it is a very nice building. Me, myself, I like very much this first phase of the building. It is a very simple, but a very joyful kind of architecture from the 60s. We were just looking a little bit for this kind of style, what kind of style this can be. There are no precedents, so there is no precedent in the railway architecture. I suppose that the architect knew very well the Westbahnhof in Wien, because Hungarians has so that was a gate towards the west. But it is not copied, it is not following Westbahnhof in Wien. I know that the architect knew very much the Italian railway stations, and of course they had to know the railway stations here in Alexanderplatz. So, but it is not following that. It is something new and something very fresh. You have to know that we are after the revolution of '56. It is in the early 60s. We are in 60, 61, 62. And at the same moment, there is a kind of development, once again, the resort area at Lake Balaton. And the trains to Lake Balaton starts from this station, so still today. So it is a kind of an architecture, kind of a gate to the resort. So it is a spa building, if you want. And you will see that it is. Anyhow, I think that it is a very nice architecture with these cascading staircases and a happy surrounding from the city. In my side, we have a park still today, and from the park you have this view. Once again, the stairways to the heaven, to the platform, and it is a very modest architecture with very simple elements, roof above the cross platform, and this one. What can be the precedents? I have found two of them. One can be the cascade of the falling water house, and if you want, you can see a little bit the use of the volumes, and there can be a precedent with the white slabs on the bottom and on the top, and a single pane of windows. But to show you that it is really a spa building, you have even the palm in the booking hall. And there is one more nice feature that on this ground floor, sorry, I go back, on this ground floor here, under the building, there is a series of summer cash desks. I don't know whether anybody else has summer cash desks, but it is an interesting idea that during the winter there are less passengers who want to buy tickets. And if you want to queue up for the summer trains, then you have additional cash desks on the ground floor. Anyhow, that was the building from the 60s. But at that very time, it was known, and that's why it was called temporary building and provisorium, because they knew that the new underground line, the first really big underground line, will arrive here. It will have a terminus here, so it will be a city center in a certain way. So let's define a city center, and of course we define a city center with a larger railway station building, with an office building of the railway station, and we have to put there something vertical. Nobody knew what would be the function of this vertical building, perhaps a hotel, perhaps an office building, but the decision makers of that time, they were looking for the positioning of vertical elements in the city. Finally, these buildings were not constructed. There were some other vertical elements, but just we have got this picture about the way of thinking. Sorry. We have the picture of the way of thinking. How did they imagine a city center? And I cannot tell you too much about that. The only thing that we can realize is this frieze. This frieze can arrive from the station of Termini in Rome, where there is this very strong element of Amerigo Tot. Perhaps it wanted to arrive from there, but as the station of the underground arrived, here you can see the tunnels for the escalators and the concrete box for the metro station, just beside our small box, which was not demolished. So it was a temporary building, but it was not demolished. One more very nice symbolic, I realized that they have even kept the red star on the elevation, and there is a inscription that it is an excellent socialist enterprise, the railway itself. They didn't take it down during the reconstruction of the building. We have got a much more sophisticated pedestrian subway system towards the trams and the buses, and a series of shops on a -1 level. Finally, the building was inaugurated together with the underground line. That was the end of 72, and the office building was still under construction up to 74, 75. So that was the composition. And I have to tell you that it was kept in a very good architectural quality and material quality. So, for example, this large and very characteristic black window surface is made of glass panes imported from Brussels, from Belgium. So that was quite a strong effort to have a high quality. And the arrangement of the whole area was not missing artistic elements and artistic investments. That's the series of shops and a small restaurant and the bookshop and the flower shop, which was thought to be important for a city center like that. These are photos from the ancient times. For example, you can see that the frieze from the facade of the tower block came down to this cylindrical concrete box of the underground station. Here you can see the approach towards the box offices, and once again, even in the phone box, in the back wall of the phone box and other shops is covered with French ceramic tiles, and at some corners still today we can find them. Once again, the box office hall and the original details. Well, the picture on the above corner shows already a little bit of problematic one, that the flow of spaces on the minus level and on the trains level is a very nice architectural idea, but not always worked. For example, the cylindrical series of box offices never worked. It was always bad, so one couldn't find out whether the number one is open at the back. So the railway people hated this. So it was a nice architectural idea, but functionally it has given questions. And on the metro entrance level, we had further problems. For example, we had this kind of staircases, but you had to make U-turns coming down, and it was not always in the direction. And finally, it came out that today the station has a lot of functional problems. Of course, it is not for disabled people. There are no elevators, no escalators. People have to change their direction, so there are these functional problems, and there are material problems. These pictures are from today, and I have to tell you that during the decades, the quality of the building is lost in several ways. It is lost in ideologically, and it is lost in material questions. For example, there is this problem with the corner. The corner is above the street level, but not high enough. So sometimes the vans simply broke these stones. There were another problem, how to wash the Belgian glass wall. So at a certain moment, when the railway people wanted to get rid of the problem, they have made a new railing, and at that time they have changed all the stone cladding to these cement fiber panels, which is even a worse solution. So the building has got a kind of negative connotation, and from that it went on to a negative spiral. That's what I call that they have simply pushed it on the edge of the cliff, and now we are looking whether it can survive or not. You can see that the elegant and generous artistic work of the frieze is simply replaced by shops which are 2 meters deep or something like this. So it is more or less a showcase, not a shop. But it came out that there is need for that. The stone pavement of the pedestrian subway is replaced by this asphalt, but even the asphalt cannot be used normally. That's a flower bed, and you can see further solutions on the other facades. That was an open gallery, but it was covered with glass, and there is a series of small shops and you know, gyros and pizza and fruit shop, but it is absolutely not maintained. Why is it not maintained, and what happened of that? That's the second aspect, that there is a material problem. So at the end of the 60s and the early 70s, I am very unhappy to say that, but this is socialist architecture in the materials, in the lack of good materials and the lack of good design, I have to tell you. And there are the problems that are present at the very moment. So for example, there is a friend of mine, the engineer for the railway, who was responsible for this stone cladding on the office block, and it was taken off just in the last month. So this picture was made in February, and this picture was made 2 weeks ago. So all the stone claddings were taken down. There was a railing on the gallery of the platforms, which simply came down one night. Unfortunately, fortunately, there was nobody there on the street level. And there is another terrible movement. There's the small shops and the very small shops and the even smaller shops, which can kill all not the architecture, but simply the everyday use of the buildings. So you can buy Chinese socks at every corner, but you cannot buy a good coffee. Once again, in the inside, there is the Belgian black wall, not cleaned. But at every picture, you can see some problems with the structures. Now there's the use of the cylindrical box offices, which is an intelligent queue. So that's much better than it was formerly. But somehow it came out that we cannot use this kind of fluent place and fluent space and this large room, which was originally a very nice and a very impressive architectural idea. And once again, there are no roofs above the platforms. There are 12 tracks, and only 2 tracks has a covered roof, which shows you that even the passengers are not interesting for the railway people. So that's a strange story, that it has a good position, it has a good use. It is very important part of the everyday commuting. So one would think that for a strategical point and for a strategically good function, we should provide developments and new roofs and cleaning and maintenance. But unfortunately, it is said that, it is not so nice place, so we will not maintain. If it is not so nice and we will not maintain, it will be worse and worse and worse. And that's what you can see on the platform level, the small shops, even some small buildings under the roof, and it is endless. So it continues that new containers, and the National Tobacco Shop has a new box over there, and finally you cannot find your way to the trains, and the closest way between the trains and the underground downwards. So these pictures are from the same point as in the historic ones. So I think, and we cross it day by day because our office is quite close to this point, and it is really unpleasant, and it is really not worth to speak about architectural quality, but on the other hand, we think that the building itself is a very important, and I will ask you what kind of building it is. I tried to make a rational classification of its position. The general function is kept because the railway is important as green. Urban position fits, yes, it fits because it is close to the metro station, so it is in a good position. But at the same time, it is a destructive urban position because this brownfield in the prestigious residential area is not a positive aspect. There is a bad functional performance, and when I speak about functional performance, I speak about lack of elevators and escalators. There is a necessity to go to the pedestrian subway, to the trams, and so if we check it closer, then we shall find that there are some functional problems. Bad material condition, and there is not only that the materials are rotten and went out of their form, but there is another problem with the thermal insulation. So when this building was constructed in '72, nobody thought about the price of energy. So the Belgian glass panes are simply not isolated. So it is a single pane. You cannot pay for the heating of this huge box office hall. But it has positive connotations. It has positive connotations because you go to the holidays. It is a nice building. It is not a prison of the communists. So there are buildings which must die for their negative connotations. But in this case, we cannot speak about that. And I think that there is an attractive architecture. So those who are winners, they go to the Olympus, and those who are the losers, they go to the TAYGETUS. And I still don't know why this building is going to the TAYGETUS, because even this classification cannot give an explanation for that. But just to continue, and of course that was a kind of rational approach, but I think that there is an emotional answer for that. And it is much more important than we think. So perhaps we cannot explain, but there must be something like that. The same architect, György Kővári, has constructed another railway station a few years later that was opened in 1980, which was, I don't want to say that it is a metabolist experiment, but it is a very good functioning building connecting a railway station, you can see on the right, with a metro station, you can see on the left. So there is a direct connection on a pedestrian bridge. But in this building, there were some shops, there were waiting rooms, and another features for the passengers. And it was quite an elegant one. And it arrived to a bus station. So it was, today we should say, it is a good intermodal junction. But unfortunately, these elegant solutions were sooner or later killed. For example, on the picture on the top, you can see the same corner that we could see here with a glazed waiting room. The waiting room was divided into small shops and covered like this, and the landscape architecture went run down. And finally, most of the building was demolished in that way because a new and a very big shopping mall came to the same position, which is a good position because there are a lot of passengers changing their way. So another building of the architect is on the TAYGETUS, and people don't like even that has remained. But let's have a few words about the architect itself. You see that he was born in 34. So it means that in the first building, he was 28. In the second Déli building, he was 38. And at that building, he was 46. And he died at the age of 48. So he was, I think he was a very quick living person. And he could show a few examples. There are other buildings in the city center, a warehouse just close to another railway station, which has once again a kind of revolutionary architecture, not beloved too much at the days. So I think he's a very interesting person. We don't know too much about him. But we can judge how he could persuade his clients to accept this kind of buildings. And this is the remains of the railway station just today. And we don't know what will happen with that. Escalators doesn't work. So even if the railway company has escalators and elevators, it doesn't work. So the lady is doing the best. She is coming across the rails and don't use these extraordinary things. But even that we were speaking about these sad stories of buildings, I have to tell you that there are good examples in Budapest as well. Perhaps not from the socialist modern era, but from 42 there was a station for suburban railways at a certain square of southern Buda, which was listed in the last years because the new underground station was constructed on this square. So first they listed the building not to have a possibility to demolish it. And just Levente Sabo, who you heard yesterday, they could make the restoration of the whole building. It is even better than it was. So it is a wonderful, and this is one of the success stories. We have another success story for a bus station which was constructed in 49. So yesterday we were speaking about the pre-war and after-war short modern period, which was the same, with the same architects and the same knowledge. So this is a fresh and early example of the socialist modern architecture based on the former one, which was neglected for years because the coaches doesn't arrive anymore to the city center. They have new points at the boundaries of the city, and it became a design terminal. It is called design terminal, a point for the design people interested in design and this whole artwork. And the institute itself is still there, but it works as a trendy restaurant today. Much more a restaurant than a design terminal, but we hope that it will still keep its function on that way. But anyhow, the building itself is in a good condition, and it is very popular. And it is very popular to show to the general public that not only the pitched roof buildings can be called building, but the flat roof buildings are interesting as well. This is the newest story that at the same moment when the second version of the Southern Station, so we are in 72 when the new underground line arrives to Buda, and it is the station just before the terminus, so it is the neighboring station, which was constructed as a very symbolic or important building, and that form. And nowadays, the whole junction is remodeled, completely remodeled, and there were large debates whether to keep this so-called, what is the legyező? Fan. This fan-type building, and finally it was decided by important people from the traffic designers that it is so symbolic and so important that we should keep the fan building. But I have to tell you that art historians are not very much agreed. They do not like too much the solution, but from our point of view, it is a great success that the building itself was kept. This horizontal element that you could see was so much deteriorated that it was taken off, and this kind of reminiscence of the socialist modern architecture is kept, and I think that we can be happy with that because it shows a good example for the others that simply you change the glazed walls to thermally isolated plates, and you can keep the building as a fresh one. My problem with this Déli Station, and perhaps we can go back for a moment to a general view of that, whether we can, and we have discussions at the moment. So just in May, we have to continue this kind of discussion, whether it has any kind of value or it is a great bunch of rubbish, and it would be better to get rid of this ruin. And this is one approach, and the other approach that it is an iconic building, or at least a symbolic one, or at least a landmark building. So we are in a discussion whether we can call it as an iconic building. Is it an iconic, or are there any definitions for buildings that we can call iconic? We were speaking about cornerstones in Riga, which is cornerstone from a certain period. It was the first one. So I have to tell you that I like very much the building. I liked it for 40 years. It wouldn't come into my mind that we can demolish it, because we cannot demolish every 40 years of buildings. So there is a railway station, and we change it every decades, or every 2 decades, or every 4. It is not possible. But on the other hand, there is a dilemma of the approach, whether it is a good one or it is only an experiment. And in a general field, there is always a question: what will happen to our buildings of this period if we don't like them? If we hate them, then they will go to the negative spiral. If we can like them, and if we can have positive emotions towards them, and the general public and the politicians and the decision makers can have a kind of positive approach, then it can be kept, it can be used for the original purpose, it can be used for a new purpose. You can even change the glass panes, and you can even wash them. So I think that we know from the urban sociology that the broken glass and the not washed glass is the first sign of the deterioration of an urban area. So the next question: how to persuade the state railway company to keep in their mind the value of this kind of buildings, because it is not the only one that they have. So thank you for your attention. I just wanted to show with this small case study that we are currently in the way of making decisions, and it is a hot topic at the moment in Budapest. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and maybe I can continue in your conclusion. You were speaking about current condition of the buildings, and you mentioned that if I understood well, that the low condition or weak condition of material you connect with the socialist era and the production of that time. And I, from my perspective of not being architect but art historian, I would like to ask you as an architect that if it's really like this, if it's not more the maintenance, that if you build today some kind of structure and you will not invest more than 40 years to the building, you would say that it's a weak condition of the process of building and materiality. This is the question. If it's really it's really the problem of the socialist era, the condition of the material, or it's a problem of maybe the not investing and not maintaining the building?
I think both. So here at the Déli Station, it is quite clearly a corrosion problem. A corrosion problem was known in the socialist era as well. They did not spend too much money for the anti-corrosion, or they didn't use stainless steel because we had no stainless steel at that time in so much quantity. But to put up the stones with corrosive steel elements, it was a mistake. But on the other hand, when we speak about the maintenance, all of the signs are present. So even not cleaning, the cleaning is the first step of maintenance. But for example, you can see this pavement was made of stone originally, and even more, there is a network of pipes under the floor, which could be heated in the winter, not to have snow on the surface. That's an extravagant idea, and now we have in the rich people's garage entrances the same solution, but it never worked, and it was very expensive, of course. But because of that, the stone was very short, in a short time, cracking, and they have got rid of the stone and they have put the asphalt. But look at the asphalt. So I think it is non-defendable. So I am very sorry that I show these bad examples from my country, but you know the same from your countries as well.
Other questions? Yeah.
Thanks. Only a short comment. If I knew it well, it's a piece of news from the last 1 or 2 weeks that an architectural idea competition will be written in some months about what to do with this building.
These are good news. Yesterday you didn't tell me that.
It's a really new one.
So I like this building very much. So I know it since 30 years, and I think it's a really great value. So Dani Kovac showed us once from Victor Vacharet the mosaics inside of the building. So it's I think everything belongs together, and so I think that discussion is very important. What you keep, what you renovated, if what is possible. I think everything is possible to renovate. It's depending on the money, but this discussion is very important. And so I don't agree with you. This Moskva-Ter solution is good, because the whole composition of the building now is destroyed with this when they broke up this one part. And once I had a discussion with this Olympic Village in Munich. There was the same problem. It was under heritage protection, but it was such a bad condition there that it was not possible to live in the building anymore. And so they destroyed all the buildings. So they kept, I don't know, 5 of these buildings and destroyed the other buildings, and they built it in the same style, the same high measure, and the same use. So they rebuilt it. But it's not the same building, because it's not the building where Edwin Moses lived. So the whole history of this building gets lost. So that's why I think if you renovate this, you have to keep it, the whole building. And the first thing is perhaps to clean it and to throw out these shops and all the things.
Yes, I agree. I didn't tell that a few years ago there was an intention, there was a proposal for listing the building. Unfortunately, at that time, they didn't decide. And on the other hand, these days, the listing and the whole working of the protection of monuments and historic buildings is not so easy. So now the decision makers would not allow to list these buildings. Formerly, it was a little bit more or less the proposal of the specialists, the proposal of the art historians and architects. Nowadays, it is much more the decision of politicians. So we don't think that perhaps if in an architectural competition we can show out that there is a possibility to increase the functionality, there is a possibility to find a new function for the big hall, or there is somebody who takes the responsibility to run a series of shops, then it can move on, but one has to work hard for that.
Thank you, Zoltán, for this presentation. It was really nice. The pictures was new for me because, especially from the interior, I've never seen any pictures. And I want to comment, as far as I know, the decision from the government is that the function is taken away to the border of the Budapest, to another station, and looking for another function with this competition or in another way. And as we see, there is two options now, destroying, demolishing it all, and renovating it all. But in this very case, I think there is a third solution, because there is a previous building existing in this very building. So maybe it's just a crazy idea of mine that there are other solutions.
Well, I don't know whether I have understood well, but you are speaking that we should keep the small box and demolish the big one. The problem is that the underground station arrives beside, so the original composition cannot be restored. So one have not to step back, but to step ahead and create new solutions. But just to add that to your words, that at the very moment I am speaking about the architecture of the building, but in the same moment there are other groups who are speaking about the craziness of cutting a railway line which goes to the city center. Each European city is struggling to get in these trains to the city center, and we are cutting this. So it is not I hope that it is not a closed debate. So the railway people are struggling for railway lines. I'm speaking about the architecture.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions?
I have a more like a comment, because it might start a very long discussion, so maybe we can save it for. But you have touched upon a very important aspect, which is most often and very usually associated with socialist modernism. It's copying from the West. And you have shown several examples, and many different terms were used, not direct copying, but maybe appropriation, learning from Western magazines, taking examples, influences, etc. So how would you comment this in the 60s in Hungary?
Well, I am not a scientist of that period. I would use the word influence. So that's which expresses how I am thinking. So yesterday we have seen that people were looking at Japanese patterns. They were influenced by that, and they tried to take it part of their own genuine approach and or genuine creative answers. So that's why I said that this is not a copy of a railway station, but it can be influenced by modernist style elements. And perhaps I am not mistaking. I do not make a big mistake if I say that architects are influenced by precedents. There are, of course, quite unique and quite original pieces, but in general, if we are speaking that the socialist architecture was inspired by, perhaps, I don't know whether in Lithuania, for this wedding house, can we speak about Finnish inspiration or not? But I suppose that we can, and we can have examples in Hungary following this kind of Finnish influence as well. I think it is not a shame. It is a way of evolutive creation.
Are there any reactions?
I just have a question for the audience, or just to start another discussion. Is it possible to consider it a state of the social modernism where capitalism just broke into the building and started to play around with its small shops and things like that? Because it's also a thing that in the social era, it was not a question of placing consumer functions in the buildings. And when the consumer functions or needs arrived, these buildings were not prepared for that at all. And because of that, it's not functional in that sense and creates a lot of tension in the buildings and leads to misusing the buildings.
Well, we can say like that capitalism has eaten the large-scale socialist spaces in a terrible way. But yesterday we went out to Alexanderplatz. There was a train station which was not used like that. So it is not necessarily a capitalist approach. It is a very, help me in the good English word, a very small-scale capitalism, a pity játékok. So these are very small-scale playground for those who are exploiting this kind of niches. These are niches. You could see there is a shop under the staircase, but under the staircase they have increased their surface 2 times, and now they can give you more bread or something like this under a staircase. It works on another way. There is a strong person who gets the right to divide these things, and he sublets this kind of shops, and the only interest is to get more and more small money. These are small monies because you cannot ask for a normal rent under a staircase. But the whole thing is rotten, and the whole thing goes down. Yesterday I told somebody that even I feed myself this kind of business because I buy their kebab or something like this. So even if you buy there something, you keep it living with this very, very bad result.